Unless you've had your head buried in a manga comic for the past 10 years, you'll know there are some huge changes going on in the world of cars right now. Electric power has gone mainstream. Various car companies from Volvo to Mini to Jaguar are saying they won't even sell a conventional petrol engine car by the end of this decade, and the UK government will make it impossible to buy one anyway.
But if you've driven one of these lately, that might not seem like such a depressing prospect. This is a Tesla Model 3. It's clean, it's quiet, it does almost 300 miles on a charge, and you can even play video games in the driving seat. And it is ridiculously fast. Straight out of the box, this thing can hit 60 miles an hour from rest in 5 seconds. Okay, there are quicker cars these days, but this is not meant to be a sporting car. This is just a bog standard bottom of the range Model 3. It's kind of like the Civic GL, if you like. You know, if you step up to the Tesla Model 3 Performance, you'll do 60 in 3.1 seconds. I mean, that's as quick as a new Nissan GT-R, and it costs 2/3 as much. So how can cars like the Nissan GT-R, you know, performance icons, how can they compete against packages like this? Or are we actually going to lose a lot of character? What are we giving away in exchange for that performance for this big screen? We're going to go right back to the beginning of the GT-R story, to the Hakosuka, the most analog GT-R of all, and find out. Okay, so technically this wasn't quite the first GT-R. That was actually the four-door saloon version of this car, the PGC10 from 1969. But it's this K PGC10 coupe that everyone wants. Certainly the one that I want. I mean, just look at it. Absolutely stunning in every single way. Now, even the non-GT-R cars, the GTX models, they still had some real presence. I love the way that all these cars had a sort of hooded brow over the headlamps, over the quad lamps, to really give them a moody, mean stare. And the coupe here, I love the way this big, fat, thick, chunky C-pillar gives it some real muscle that kind of sort of offsets the slim pillars that you got in all these cars in the early 70s. And of course, one of the most memorable of all the details on this GT-R, the thing that everyone remembers, are these riveted arch extensions. Now, the standard cars came with skinny steel wheels that looked a little bit lost under these arches, but they were there for a purpose, because the whole point was to actually be able to fit big, fat racing rubber to go racing, and it much better filled out in this case with these aftermarket rims. And then at the back, spoiler. Pretty normal these days, but actually quite unusual in the early 70s. Car manufacturers were only just getting into the idea of aero, even on racing cars, let alone road cars. No idea whether it actually works or not, but it certainly looks the part. But the heart of this car, as we all know, is what is going on under there. Now, I know you're dying to have a look, but before we do, let's just take a minute to think about car shows in 2040. No one is going to be coming to ask you to lift the bonnet of your Tesla Model 3 up to have a look, because all they're going to find is a six-pack of bog roll that your wife told you to get while you were out. This car, though, is something else. The GDX Skylines only came with a single cam 2-litre inline 6. It was pretty potent, 130 brakes, not bad for the time. But this one got a twin cam engine, 160 horsepower it made in street trim, and over 200 on the racetrack. No fancy fuel injection here. This was breathing through 3 Weber 45s. I had one of these in my Mini when I was a kid, and I know this sounds amazing. So what 3 of them are going to sound like, I can't wait to find out. The great thing about electric cars, or the convenient thing about them, is that there's no need to wait to warm them up before you can use all that performance. So in the morning, you get up, you're late for work, no worries, jump in, mash the throttle, you can go as fast as you like. But it's not like that with this car, is it? And there's something really satisfying about warming up a car like this, a really special engine, especially in something like this GT-R. You know, you're letting the oil warm up, you're listening for noises, you're feeling vibrations, you're just paying attention all the time. Teasing the choke because of course this one's on carbs. So you're forging a bond with the engine, getting to know it a bit before you really get stuck into the action later on. It's kind of like the foreplay, if you like. And I've always prided myself as being a very considerate lover. So while we're waiting for this engine to warm up, it's probably worth just reminding ourselves where this car fits into the history of the GT-R, because it's a completely different kind of car to the GT-Rs that most of us know. You know, in fact, the GT-R story's got 3 acts, and it might have a 4th one if the car goes electric, which it may in the future. But you've got the current R35 GT-R, the first not to be a Skyline. It's a V6 turbo car, 4-wheel drive. And then before that, you had the real classics, the R32 to R34. They're the cars that a lot of us think of when we think of Skyline GT-Rs. But this is a very different car. No turbos, no 4-wheel drive. It's a very traditional performance car, almost like a BMW, I suppose. And that means it's a really pure driving experience. Yeah, it's not as quick as the Tesla, of course it's not, nowhere near. But there's more to a great performance car than just straight line performance, isn't there? Now don't get us wrong, we didn't set out to take a pop at electric cars or the Model 3. That wasn't the point of this feature. This car, in fact, belongs to Torque GT and it's used every day and it's a really good daily driver. There are loads of benefits to running an electric car. This car costs very little to lease, it's almost no maintenance, and there's some real tax benefits as well to running an electric vehicle. But do any of those benefits, good as they sound like any of the reasons you got into cars in the first place? They sound anything like the reasons why you like cars like this? I don't think so. That's a good car, but it's a 140 mile an hour iPhone, isn't it? And the more cars go down that road, the more cars like this are going to seem more exciting, more characterful, more special, really. It's a bit like this Seiko 6139 I've been wearing today. It was built in Japan in 1971, a few months after this Hakosuka, in fact. It doesn't do text messages, it doesn't take phone calls, anything like that. It's just a simple 50-year-old mechanical watch. But I like the feel of it, I like the look of it, I like knowing there's a mechanical thing going on. A bit like this car versus that car. It's why, no matter how fast and efficient electric cars get in future, some of us will always be dreaming about cars like this.